This story that I'm about to tell you happened, I believe, a year ago now. It's always been hard to tell it because it's such a long story involving a lot of pieces that move together. So I got one of the players, Zippy here. If you look at the picture, he is the little halfling with the burning hands. If you'd like to introduce your character a bit.
Yeah, Zippy was the halfling urchin, Lightfoot halfling urchin, who's eventually grew shadow powers, and after defecting from one group to another, ended up in the town of Brinchander.
All right. So I guess I should introduce a bit of the world, the story, and as to what we're telling when I talk about the. I think we call it the Ballroom Assassination campaign. So
Yep.
this campaign. It's the campaign itself started 2 years ago, but this event itself was 1 year last summer. Um. So the campaign always has a with our group, there are always a rotating cast of characters. Sometimes some people come in, some people come out. And with this group, we were having a group that was consistent, and one person who was jumping in to be consistent to make a total of 5 people. The theme was the other group, the rest of the people, let's see, the paladin of the party ended up having to leave. Like, physically, he could not be in the area anymore, he had to move out. The Barbarian was he was gone for a month. I don't exactly remember the reasoning, but because of that month, he was absent for this story. And I think one of the fighters that we had dipped out, which left us with the 5 main people that remain consistent for this story. And they are over to the left. We have our Kenku Arcane Trickster by the name of Hoot. We have our Eladrin Bard by the name of Selby. It was a College of Whispers bard. We of course have our Shadow Sorcerer, Zippy, who I'm sure will be telling more of the story from his perspective. We have our Tabaxi Scout over there. And the last person that was being joined was Gus, the Bard. It was a Bard of Lore, and they used a special race of their own. Well, it's a fun little race. The details of that special race is unimportant for the story. But anyways, so these 5 people, you might notice something. There's 2 rogues, there's 2 bards, and there's a sorcerer. Every fighter, barbarian, paladin, and anyone who could possibly be a tank left for the entirety of a month. In addition, well, not in addition, but to put things in perspective, our highest health and highest armor class character was our rogue with the mobility feat, our scout Tabaxi, who refused to be in the front line, even when that's the best place for him. So, this idea all started when I was taking a track of where I was in the campaign, realized I need to give them something interesting to do that didn't involve a whole lot of combats, and see how they do with it. So I had this idea, I guess with this I should introduce the story a bit. I always take maps from the Forgotten Realms, and then I adapt the world to fit what I want to do. So while I use the 10 town maps, it's not the 10 towns. They were amongst these 10 towns that they were moving around, they were trying to find these 4 magical artifacts. They were each of the original heroes, effectively. 1 fighter, 1 wizard, 1 cleric, 1 rogue. They found the wizard artifact, and without these combatants, they weren't about to go for the fighter artifact. And the cleric artifact was under the control of one of the big bad evil guy of the campaign. So I decided this is a good time to try to go for the rogue artifact. So the general idea was this. A few sessions ago, they made some very powerful enemies. One was a leader of their own Assassin's Guild, who was, another College of Whispers. They're just starty, but they made an enemy with the entire guild because they took out their leader. So they were hunting these people. One of the minions for the big bad evil guy was in this weird spot where they were both kind of good, kind of bad, Okay, no, they were definitely bad. It's just they weren't exactly an enemy of the group. And I want to try to conclude that and help them work with that. And so I came up with this idea. Um, so just before they left Bryn Shander, as they were going to the city where they would do this, where they would find the rogue's artifact, I had the character approach them in the city while they couldn't fight and basically say the following. He, okay, gosh, I'm trying to cut out all the unnecessary information, but then unnecessary information comes up. So Hoot's character, or Hoot, the character, the arcane trickster, part of their backstory is that they're up in Bryn Shander because they're wanted for murdering someone on behest of a thieves guild, and that person that they murdered was going to kill Hoot to cover up the fact that he hired him. That person is the brother. Okay, let's give names. Midas Saldrin was the name of the person that was contacting them. His older brother, Jake Saldrin, was the one who ordered the hits on Hoot's character. Jake Saldrin was going to be at a winter ball over in Dogan's Hole. So Midas was saying, well, if you kill Jake, then I become the next in line, which makes me the leader of this guild, which means I have no reason to stay up here, which means I'm no longer an issue for you guys, and my issue gets solved as well. So the idea was, if you can kill Jake Saldrin during this ball that was coming in 10 days, they get rid of a threat for Hoots, they get rid of a threat in the campaign because it's one of the minions, and yeah, they also, in the process, have a chance to find this magical artifact. I was going to just have it... My general idea was I was going to make that not too hard, but I was going to add a bunch of additional themes. Other story beats were getting involved. Selby has this whole thing with their character not knowing their mother. I was going to have diviners there that they had to interact with. But, as I said, there was that League of Assassins. They knew about this ball, so they were going to be there as well. And this entire group is a target because of that. And I was just going to have basically a simple assassination team where they have some time to plan it, and then all these complications happen during their planning, so that they have to adapt to it. Does that sound about right, Zippy? I know it's not how it ended, but does that sound like something reasonable that I did?
Yeah, that sounds like a night of shenanigans, and it was gonna be fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. Who am I kidding?
It was fun, it just wasn't how we expected it to go.
It never is. It's D&D.
Yep. So my idea was I would present them with the castle, and they would have basically as much time as they need to start planning out the assassination and all their plans with that. With this, I'm going to turn over to Zippy. You could tell how you got into the castle and at least start up the planning phase stuff.
So the general idea was we were running low on supplies from wandering around the Arctic. So what I decided to do was use a favor. I got a ring from one of the old heroes we resurrected as a token of his gratitude. It was a noble signet. Figured nothing of it. Went up and wanted to flash the ring and said I was, entitled to some supplies for my ranking. It was total lie, but I was hoping to just, make it look believable. Next thing I know, the owner of the castle is contacted by the quartermaster we were talking to, and greets me as his long-lost cousin. It was at this point I realized I am in too deep for this. So we started, but I couldn't back out, so I started really playing it up that I was the long-lost relative. And that's when we got invited by the owner of this mansion. We got invited to participate in his grand heist.
Yes, we have to talk about the introduction of the heist.
Oh yeah, no, that was he, sat me like my character down as his, relative and said, "Hey, we've got a heist planned for this ball that happens, every year. If you participate in this, you'll get a cut." I want to just clarify. In my head, I'm like, okay, assassination, heist gone wrong could really work in our favor if we raise a big enough stink, and then that'll get us, our out. I'm already cranking out schemes in my head, but I haven't written any of these down yet.
So the introduction of the heist, that's not how I remember it going. I remember it, so yes, that was one of the themes of the complications. The idea was that in addition to all these complications of them dealing with, for the rogue's magic item, that is the main device that they are using to steal all this stuff. So the magic item itself is hidden inside the castle that the owner of the castle is using for the heist. I made sure that during the first dinner, he let slip out, "Oh, this heist is going to be great." I meant Ballroom, and then I think he did. I do know I wanted to make sure you were connected to him. I don't think he flat out said, "I want you to join the heist." At least not yet in the story.
Not at that point, but it was it was not too far in. Like, we weren't even there for the day by the time he sat down and said it.
Yeah, no. I did do it early. The thing is, if I remember correctly, the fact that he wanted you in on the heist does not come for a few days, which is very important as we get into what happened during the first few days.
Yeah, I was writing so many schemes. I kind of it was a blur for that part of just all the plans that I was coming up with, because you actually drew out on this big battle map an entire castle floor plan and multiple levels that and just basically laid it out. All right, this is the area. You've got time to scope this out, make your plans. Come back next session and we'll next week and we'll do this.
We gotta stop and talk about all the different plans you made, because that's a great story. So he made every single plan was alphabetical, and it was went from A, which was just like it was Operation A, attract the enemy, which was just a simple seduce him, bring him into his back room, kill him, hide the evidence, and it just kept going down.
Perfect for the bard.
What?
Perfect for the bard and the assassin, the two rogues.
Yep.
It just let them have their way.
Yep.
Their class function.
Precisely. And then just it kept going down of like, oh, this plan failed. All right, let's go to plan B, plan C, plan D. And it finally ends with plan S, which is basically everything's gone wrong. So what we're going to do is you just lock me in a room with the guy. I don't care how many are there. I'm going to activate my cursed item, and we're just going to turn this entire castle to a nuclear explosion. Everyone else just runs so they don't die along with a sorcerer.
That was called Plan S for Scorched Earth. It meant that there was no survivor. Nothing was going to be remaining. That castle was going down in that hole if it meant the end of time.
Speaking of which, I guess I should introduce the hole, because this does come up a little bit later. But first, the reason I brought that up is that note that Zippy has a cursed wand that is empowering his spells a little too much, is the idea.
Yeah, getting corrupted and hitting allies because I can't control the amount of power pumping out of this wand.
An example is that he once cast Scorching Ray through it, and he got an additional beam. All of them dealt necrotic damage that reduced people's max health. But after he cast that spell, next turn, he had to cast another spell of equal level, and then cast another spell. If he ran out, the wand decides what spell he's casting, and where he's casting it. Stuff like that.
On the bright side, there were charisma saving throws in between them just to make it stop.
Yes, no, he does have charisma saves. This wasn't just forced. But I will say Hoot was probably very happy that... Okay, I should say Hoot was unhappy when you first did this, and I think we left him with a max health of 2?
Max health of 2, and this is a level 5... we were tier 2.
Yeah.
So, tier 2 monsters noticeably do more than 2 damage.
Yes. So, anyways, you gotta be careful with that wand, was the idea. It has a lot of power and a lot of risk.
But I also couldn't use any other arcane focus because it would destroy them in my hand.
Yeah. As we progressed, he was being able to cast other spells without them going haywire, but anyways.
That was after some time had practiced with the damn thing.
Anyways, so with those plans, I do want to point out one plan that I thought was really cool. Plan F, food fight. So the idea was during the dinner, They just need some sort of distraction. I gave the characters a means to make a poison that knocks people unconscious if they drink it or if they eat it. And the idea was just get a distraction, poison the person's food. He falls unconscious. They think, haha, he's drunk. Pull him aside, slit his throat, get rid of him. And by the time anyone realizes they're all done for the night, they're all heading home. The thing is, as for the distraction, I thought it was really cool. Hoots brought up something from a previous campaign. The character the idea was he was raised in a gnomish village, so he knows a lot of gnomish recipes and stuff like that. In another campaign, a player was planning to become a chef, and I jokingly made an item called the Gnomish Cookbook. He rolled really low on intelligence and didn't realize this was the gnome's version of an anarchist's cookbook. So he accidentally he made basically a magical confetti bomb and days that destroyed the kitchen where he was making it. And who was just like, wait, that's technically a gnomish meal. So he asked, since they were the guests of honor, if they could have that meal during the dinner. Which meant, of course, the unprepared chefs would have an explosion go off in their room. No one would die, but be quite the distraction. I thought that was brilliant, honestly. Plan F, food bomb, just made me like, all right, these guys have it covered. They have it covered.
There was nothing that could go wrong. There are 3 people proficient, and 2 of them expertise in sleight of hand checks. And we were going to be sitting at their table with his food. Nothing could go wrong in that moment of just roll anything but a nat 1.
Anyways, and that was another thing. When we actually start the ball, I had the general. Well, we'll get there because we're still at the first day. We're still at your guys' planning phase.
We spent 2 different sessions on planning.
I thought it was 3. I know this took a total of a month. I'm not sure. I know the ballroom was the last session. Oh, that's because I added in the session where you guys got there. So it's 2 sessions of planning. All right, got it. But anyways, I did notice that like this planning, they didn't really bring up the heist. This plan was to take care of the assassination. The heist was just something going on in the background they'd have to address later. Because, as I said, they're here for that magic item. But there was one thing that I really liked. There was another thing with the plans. Zippy, do you remember what you guys needed to do when you, the first thing when you guys got back for the second day of planning?
We decided that since I was like level 8, so close to level 9, I could get a 5th level spell like teleportation circle. The nobles were all teleporting into the ballroom. So as long as I could get myself up to level 9, which I was so close, and just hijack one of their teleportation circles, we'd have an out immediately. Like straight up, like if we had to assassinate and just run, we could get in, secure the teleportation room, and then bamf ourselves out of that room. But it all hindered on my sorcerer getting to level 9, which meant more combat.
Yes. So as for combat, this city is called Dagon's Hole. At this time, I will just be blunt. I just recently watched some stuff of Out of the Abyss. I wanted to do something interesting with that without making it so interesting that it consumes the entire campaign. So think Out of the Abyss, but less interesting. Anyways, there's monsters down there, which makes it a good place to fight. And hey, there's treasure down there. Maybe the rogue's treasure is in there. So
that was one. And then the final one was the mine where the kids, they were sending a bunch of child servants down into mining. So in some respect, it's like, oh, we could foreseeably help them out, kill some monsters, make it safer for the kids, be heroes. Wouldn't be a problem. Nothing could go wrong.
Yeah, one of the side decisions, as I said, the side things that people were working on, who was working on getting those kids out of this city, away from this corrupt mining facility to somewhere where they could be adopted. So, a lot of these, these things shouldn't be hard. You should just have a lot on your plate, and that's the issue. At least that was our plan here. Now, Zippy, I will let you tell the entire story of you guys in that hole. I will let it be your story.
Yeah, so I think we had Og at that point. The barbarian.
You did not have Og at that point.
Yeah, but
Og, by the way, is the barbarian. He was gone for this. He comes back only to be a guest for the ballroom. He doesn't really do much other than like dance with people and stand as a guard.
We trained him to not kill nobles who did anything. We tried to train him in noble society so he could maintain a cover as like one of the bodyguards at this ball. And all we could really get him to roll high enough on intelligence checks was if anyone says your mother, that started a fight.
Hey Nate, we're telling a story right now. It's all right if we don't get interrupted.
Sure thing.
All right. Sorry about that.
So we basically only got the barbarians to say, if anyone says your mother, then it's probably going to be a fight and you got to break it up. Did any of that really stick? Low intelligence roll said no. So
I don't remember him getting into any serious fights. But anyways,
he chopped off one of the patron's legs.
Oh, right, that. I forgot about that. Well, that gets
Yeah,
out of the day. Let's get back to the whole. So Og was not there. The party going to fight monsters was 2 bards, 2 rogues, and a sorcerer.
And a shadow sorcerer. We only had 1 character who didn't have dark vision. And that was Hoot.
Correct.
So that was one. So while we were in this mine, that's like super far down in like this dark hole. We go down there. We're ready to fight some monsters. I think we find like 1 or 2 initially. Continue on farther down to where they're just starting to like the kids are really like mining more recently. But due to some collapsings, there's a bunch of dead kids and their spirits who are trapped down there and forced to keep mining. Zippy's impulse was to kill the undead. Selby's was to preserve the kids' lives. So was so the bards basically said, "Oh no, you can't kill kids, even if they're undead." But the rogue, namely the scout, thought it'd be a good idea to try to pickpocket them for any valuables. Which is hilarious because he rolled low and they noticed and got mad. So not only was Zippy pissing these monsters off, but so was the scout who tried to pickpocket them by pretending to be a friend. Shenanigans ensue to the point where the bard decides to use the highest level sleep spell they can cast to knock Zippy out in one go. And the rogue has to duck inside like an alcove or something and hide from these children hurling rocks at him. It was that point where like they were able to drag Zippy away and get the rogues out after we like made an escape. Eventually we made it so that we could walk away and wake Zippy up, saying like, okay, now that you can't kill any more kids, you're you can wake up now. I roleplayed as being angry at the betrayal, which wasn't too far off. So we just keep on marching deeper and deeper into this hole. I'm ready to mince or torch any kid that comes near me, and the party's actively like searching ahead to make sure nothing like that happens. We come up to one open chamber and find a Mind Flayer's laboratory down there. With like everyone rolling their initiatives, getting ready for this fight. I'm still mad. I don't ask how big the room is. I said fireball. Cursed One took that and ran with it. Channeled that bit of hatred and hurt and betrayal and threw out a fireball that's 40 feet in like radius inside that tiny laboratory where the bard had just cast Shatter and shattered all the vials of chemicals and everything in that room. So there's a toxic, gases and fumes, and then a fireball of necrotic energy rips through the entire through the entire cavern. The rogues use their dodging abilities, one of the 4 possible. What is it? Evasion?
Would you like me to jump in now?
Sure. So, you can describe this part.
So yes, I will also note that room was 10 feet by 20 feet. A normal fireball would have still hit everyone.
Oh yeah, it was gonna be fine. Everyone makes their dex saves. They're all dexy characters. It would have been fine.
So the 2 rogues both roll well enough, and they have evasion. They're both at least 7th level. One of the bards rolls a nat 20. That would be Selby. And then Gus and Zippy, one rolls poorly, the other rolls a natural 1. I calculated all the damage. They're both gone. One literally disintegrates. No body left.
Yeah, you had me roll 8d12s of damage.
Yeah.
It was mental.
Yeah, it was the cursed wand, your anger emotion into it, plus like a threat being worthwhile. I think I gave you the option, do you want to let your wand take over? And you said yes.
I didn't ask. Yeah, that's what did I stutter? I said fireball this. That's a mind flare. I don't care what happens. Just torch that bastard. And it did. It did exactly what I asked. Monkey paw style.
Yep. So now with 2 people dead, we jump into the afterlife basically. Zippy, his curse has to do with the Raven Queen. It has to do so with his death, he gets taken to the Raven Queen's court. I believe and seeing that he is there with Gus because of his actions, you did this, so you tell them what you did at least.
So we've had several dream sequences while being in that plane, that like it was in the Shadowfell, and the wand's persona was like a raven that would perch on like Zippy's shoulder and talk to him. So so Zippy waking up, and that was like if he was dreaming again. The problem was Gus was there, and so was the mind flare. The mind flare was being ripped apart by crows off in the distance. Gus was standing next to me and very peeved about this, the inconvenience of being incinerated, which was kind of funny. At that point, the wand's like, I think you asked for like, do you approve of this? And at which point I said, no, whatever you do, you can have my soul. I don't care. But you better make sure that Gus goes back to life. You don't get to take their soul. I was trying to, trade with the devil. Like, you can have mine willingly, but you can't have theirs.
And as a DM, those sort of trades are always fun to make. And the theme was, as I said, Gus I think was brought to. So the wand sometimes reduces their max health. Gus was the one that rolled a nat 1. The whole reason their body disintegrated, their maximum health was brought to 0. Even without that, I think they were brought to their negative maximum. Gus, I remember, Gus wanted to leave because they got hurt pretty bad in those first 2 fights, which is also why they didn't want to fight. Part of why they didn't want to fight the children. Anyway, since there was no body for Gus to go into, and he was more than happy to collect Zippy's soul, I decided that Gus was brought back in Zippy's body.
Monkey paw.
Yeah. So the feed was I gave it Zippy's powers, and the problem was Gus doesn't know how to play a sorcerer. I'm not.
That player never did anything besides bards.
I think they might have done more, but anyways, still, it's just like suddenly thrown an 8th level character on you. I will admit this might have been a little bit harsh on me. Then again, they have their character restored now, but not throughout the story. So
it was one of those things that your character's either permadead or you have a chance at resurrecting them if you deal with having to play I handed her my character sheet. That was it. It was like we just switched the character sheets around.
So with that death, I want to state that the party leaves the holes, and I just want to describe where the party is now. So they're down 1 bard. Their sorcerer no longer has the curse item because that went down with him as he took the soul. They left early, so I think the sorcerer, Zippy was still less than 1,000 experience away from leveling up, but was still level 8. They did not want to go back down there at all.
It was 400 XP left. That's all that was needed.
400 to get to level 9 and finish the plan. But on the bright side, they did have plans A through S, though some of them did get a little sabotaged along the way.
All of them counted on me being there since I knew I was going to be the most, the charisma-based caster with, his couldn't go wrong with those persuasion checks.
Let me just, I will say that Zippy did make all those plans. I believe he said that, like, when we get back up, I have other things for you guys to do, because they haven't explored the castle very well.
No, it was really like, we just need to get the XP so we can get the teleporter room, because that was our only, like, real legitimate escape besides running through the Arctic snow. So we're like, okay, level up, get our secure exit, and then we can explore more options, and I can develop these 20... Well, I had 19 plans, 6 contingencies, and we were going to make more and more defined ones as we explored the castle. So there was an ongoing process of, making this better and more, tailored better to the exact qualifications of the castle. If we could find secret rooms, tunnels, anything like that.
Which they did note, I will say, with what they did explore, their observant Kenku Hoot has the observant feat, so they did notice that there was space for a secret room between this certain area, which I was hinting at. But they all got up and were like, alright, so what's the plan? Well, we have these 26 plans, let's just use them. Okay. I'm like, would you guys like to read some of those plans and see how they work now? And they're like, oh no, I'm sure it's fine.
That's the thing, is I was a player who played, like, I played video games. I knew how to pull off heists. Like, Payday 2 was one of my favorites for a long time. And that's all about planning your heists and then going with it. So when I was having tons of fun making all these plans and doing, trying to, like, the idea of role playing through an entire, session was great. I always loved the role playing. And the idea of having, like, plans, missions, and schemes. I like political intrigue. They did not find that so much fun. So they were totally okay with just letting me take the reins on what we were doing and who was going to do all the talking.
And now that he's gone, they were just like, oh, these plans that don't work anymore? We're just going to stick with those plans. I think we're done with preparing.
Yep, didn't explore the castle, didn't find out what secret rooms there were. Just, it hurt my soul a little bit, not going to lie.
So I don't want Zippy stay around, and I want to give them one more session to give them a chance to find some ideas, because they know there's a heist going on, but no one's brought it up. They know that some of these plans don't work. No one's taken the time to read them. And
they just assume that I made them work no matter what.
And with all the additional things happening in the background, I decided, you know what? Maybe they need some help. So Midas Saldrin, the character that I said hired them on this quest, I gave that character sheet to Zippy here, and
so I wouldn't be sitting on my hands.
Yeah, and basically said, hey, so let's be blunt, you know more than you should now. You're co-DM, so you're helping me with this, but here's the rules, here's what your character knows, and go ahead and try to help them, but don't take over what they're supposed to do. So I gave him, like, certain information and said, yeah, Midas doesn't tell unless he's asked, but I'm sure they're not. They'll ask. Like, obviously, he has a lot of information. They'll ask him.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I have to, like, cut a little bit ahead of this and just apologize again for how I couldn't handle, after, like, 3 hours of just kind of sitting there pretending to not know anything.
No, I understand why you did it. I do recognize it broke my rules of letting them act, not you.
And I just... You watch me beat my head in with a notebook when
we could describe all the little moments of pain on our faces along the story.
Yeah, we'll tell the story, and then we'll cut back and just put what we were doing IRL as we were just sitting there.
Yep.
Internally screaming.
But I should start with this. We introduced Midas to the group, and he goes, hey, is there anything you guys would like to ask? Anything you'd like to know? And the bard who's pulling off Plan A says, no, we're good.
Yeah, no, they blow it off. They full knowledge that I had information, insider information, and they blow it off. They don't even ask who the brother handles, what he does, what he's like.
I should also note, I gave him the information that their first plan A is to seduce him, and he's bringing a +1 to this party.
It wouldn't work. And it was the That's the thing. It's like, plan A was supposed to fail. If he did bring, I had that contingency. If it was, if he did have a +1, we'll just skip the right to plan B.
Plan
Have the bard go up and try to, get a story out of him.
Yeah, and the
Because
theme
he's
was
nobility.
Plan B involves Gus as the main player, which Gus's body disintegrated in that fireball.
So it's like, okay, plan B, gotta, rotate to plan C, which was basically, get the date away, maybe make him cheat a little bit, get him drunk. And, get a little footloose and let those two, lovers go hanky-panky somewhere.
I should note, we wanted them here for this talk today. I'm not sure how many of those plans they've actually read.
Okay. Selby was Zippy's current love interest, so she, out of mourning him, looked over the plans.
All right.
Now, whether the player remembered them or not, they didn't.
Yeah.
They just remembered what I had written at one point, and they didn't read the revised.
Yeah. It's one of those things where you read the plan. Did you really ingest what you read? Did you?
And it just turned into this, like, you said it when you first saw them. These are kind of repetitive. Just take, meet target, convince target to go somewhat secluded place, and then kill target. And like, yeah, because I haven't had enough time to explore the castle. So, there was no real way to say designate an area of this is the kill box kind of thing.
Yep.
So when they didn't read the plans, they also did had the same, they were working with half of an idea.
Some of those plans were, you made 19 of them, but they are, doesn't really help.
They were very copy pasted into different strategies on how to get that guy to admit, get separated. So they were copy pasted ideas because I wasn't done.
So
and they followed them.
Yep. So let's get to the second day of planning next. So the second day of planning, I'm giving them, all right, what do you guys want to do? Do you guys want to explore the castle? To some of their credit, Og might have come in here, and I think somebody explored the castle. I know the castle was explored, at least somewhat, though when I kind of pointed out, all right, so it looks like the hidden room is here, they're like, okay. Do you want to go to above? Do you want to go below, to the right, to the left? Nah.
They just ignored it. They ignored the hidden room.
Yep. And I, literally, I mapped it out, and there's just this empty box in, floor 3.
And that was the only hidden room that you had ever
It was the only box in the castle.
That's what killed me the most was you have, DMs don't do that. That's a story device.
I need to give, just to explain one step further the issue. So, Gus, after being back in Zippy's body, wanted to find a way to revive the actual Zippy to bring him back for that. And so she's like, can I go to the library? I'm like, yes! Thank you, library! Let's get some information! What do you want to know? And she's like, I just want to look up, resurrection spells, how to bring people back to life. I'm like, this is getting off topic. I'm like, okay, well, you need diamonds for most of those resurrection spells. I'm like, okay, I just gotta do this, because they're in Zippy's body, so this is the one that they think is the long-lost relative. So, I just had the owner of this place, the one pulling off the heist, come in. I'm like, hey, how can I help you? And they're like, hey, do you have any diamonds, anything like that you can help me get? And so I'm just like, all right, I need to give them some bone. They're having issues. So I have the person just put their arm around their shoulder, okay, so, it sounds like you want to join the heist then. And they go, what? No, not at all. I was just wondering if you have any diamonds.
And I sit there, and I stare at you. I am staring at you, looking at you to do something to fix this, because I can't say anything. I'm slamming my face into my notebook at this point, knowing that there's something going on and we needed to get in on that eventually. And just like, no, don't want to participate in that in any way. It's like, just slam my face in my notebook, internally screaming.
Yes. Anyways, so that, I guess with that, I'm like, all right, I'll leave it to the party to figure out how to deal with a heist then. So I just let that slide. Kind of went through more of I think that day was mostly spent just getting used to the characters, getting used to the castle. That planning session, I think, was one of the sessions we ended early. Like, we just ran out of things to do, because...
Yeah, because the ball was going to take too much time for the time we had remaining, and so we decided we'll go next week, and that'll be a full session based around the assassination.
Yes. And this was the session where Og, our barbarian, came in. Again, he was absent for all of these. His job was basically to stand in the corner, act as a guard, and he had some fun... I gave him, obviously, some fun role-playing, but when it comes to the story of the assassination, he's not too important. We'll bring up some funny stuff with him, but generally speaking. Anyways, so I specifically remember this. We come up to the day of the ballroom. You're looking just like frustrated. I think we had a lot of talks on Discord of like, what happens if they don't kill him? What happens if they die from the assassins?
You and I were like, I was losing sleep over it. You were losing sleep over it, and it just kind of came down to, okay, if they all TPK because they've proven to be somewhat incompetent in being able to be subtle or try to like have some banter with the nobles, maybe they might insult somebody, get executed, because you already had like Og attack one of the other nobles. Yeah. Luckily, it was a educated troll, so the guy's leg grew right back. But it was still a moment of, oh, the barbarian just attacked one of the nobility. You and I both just kind of looked at each other and just said, they're gonna die. So the idea was like, all right, we basically, if Zippy gets back in his body, all the souls he killed will let him Groundhog Day this one time. Yeah. If they all TPK, they'll get one extra chance.
The idea was, we were playing out how you could get your soul back. I'm like, all right, you could actually sacrifice your soul, make it so that Zippy's gone as a character to Groundhog Day this.
Yeah, so that they would succeed. If they all died, yeah, that was the caveat on this. Is like, you can't just Groundhog Day the first thing that
the first sign of error. Goes, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just like, if they all die, like, then Zippy can be perma dead to get yeah. I don't know. Did we say if no wish spell could even resurrect him if he
we didn't talk about that caveat too much. We were just like, play it by ear, but make sure there's a backup, because at this point I feel like that backup was necessary. I specifically remember.
Yeah, you and I both did.
We came into that session. Faint Veil, his player came in first, and I remember I said, "Hey, so since this is all, I want the session to be all about your planning. So instead of rolling like high or low, I'm just going to say take 10, and depending on the situation, you get bonuses." And he just looks at me and goes, "Hey, we're screwed."
That was that was the moment where he just licked his lips and said, "We're screwed," and it's just like, you are the essence of confidence in your abilities to handle this session. You're a real vote of confidence here, buddy.
Yep. And so Zippy was obviously, he's having that problem where he's supposed to sit on his hands, and he's just clenching his fists so hard he's lifting an inch off the ground. Like,
I am actually you're watching me tighten and untighten my fist as I'm just bouncing in the chair, and it squeaks every time I do it. So you're having to tell me knock it off, because it's distracting to have something squeaking right next to you. And I'm like, sorry. And I'll put my hand on the table, and then squashed white because there's no blood in them. And I'll grab my notebook and I'll try to read some of the notebooks. Maybe take some notes about what you're saying about some lore. And I'm metagaming at this point. So I'm just going to sit here and scribble in my notes. And then someone does something that is so outlandish.
We'll get to those stories as they come.
Slam my face into my note. I've only ever walked out of a D&D session 3 times. Just taking a walk, and come back. Once was after Zippy died. I had to go take a walk because he was, my baby boy. Since he was the first character I ever played.
Mm-hmm.
He was the only character I had at that time, so it was a huge blow to have him, to lose him.
Yep.
The other 2 times I walked out were during this ball session, where I just needed a minute to decompress because I just was so high strung about this whole thing of just, why are you like this?
So, the ball. The day begins, and I will say, I give credits, Gus, the new Guppy, I think is what we'd pronounce it,
in
Zippy's body, finally made the decision to join the heist. And I asked, all right, well, is there any information you need to know, anything? And they're like, all right, well, you just keep me in the loop. Would have liked if they asked a little more, but okay. At least they're in the group. We plot out the positions. They are staying in the room just one away from where their target is going to be staying. So they do have to keep. The problem is their best assassins. Their best assassin basically is Hoot, if I'm correct, and he can't be seen because if he's seen, he becomes the target of Jake Saldrin. My idea was he's here to send in some security to basically try to basically stay in the 10 towns and get rid of the situation of the person that you try to get assassinated for getting the job erased, you know? So he's staying in the room. We have people set up. They nearly fall for a bait where as I bring in introductions, as I said, like there's a diviner that has to do with Selby's backstory that she nearly goes off to, but she decides, all right, I'll go back later. I need to try to seduce Jake Saldrin when he comes in.
Had a +1.
I don't exactly remember what Selby said to Jake. Do you? I know the consequences.
Let me try to think. It was something along the lines of your +1's not that pretty or something, or it was kind of a backhanded insult.
And yeah, it was something like that, followed by a good implication that he was dating Zippy.
Yeah.
That was the problem.
See, that's the thing. It was basically like, you want to cheat on me with, we'll cheat on each other's partners with each other kind of deal. And it's just like,
well, she was trying to seduce him, and then midway through the seduction, she brings up that she's dating Zippy, the guest of honor according to this ball.
Yep. And former, it's yet to be discovered that he's still just a walking corpse. Did we mention that Zippy's corpse is actually completely turned black and has a massive hole in his chest?
He is a shadow sorcerer, which is why he's not dead. Plus, he is someone else's body, which, yeah, it's basically a skeleton wearing a suit to cover it.
Yep. It was a charred body brought to life. So it's a walking corpse.
Right.
And that's the one she mentioned is the one that she's dating in her opener to hitting on this guy that she's supposed to kill later.
Anyways, the hitting on them did not work out. So
yeah,
they decide to go back to the room to talk and convene. I asked them where they're staying in the room. Someone brings up that they're standing at the door with the door open. I should note, they are one room away from their target.
From the target.
Who's looking for Hoot. Hoot is in the living room. They walk by because he was right there with Selby. They were going up to put their stuff away when they were seducing him. So the door's open. Hoot, their target, is in the room, and they walk by.
Oh, and they see it.
And Hoot waves.
Oh, he waves. This is, I think, the moment where I had to take a walk around the building. I actually had to stand up and just take a walk as I realized the absolute obscenity of this entire, I don't know what you want to call this debacle. It was just, I needed a walk.
So just as they know where their target is, the person they're trying to avoid being a target, they know where their target is. I do introduce a fighter, a mage, and some sort of huntsman, all there to be basically the hunters, the people hunting Hoots. And they now know exactly where their target is.
And they're the same level as us. So it's the only difference is you know how to play your characters.
We'll get to that when we get there.
Oh,
I don't think they were the exact same level. There was some balancing factors, but yes, if they got with Hoot alone, Hoot would be dead, was the general idea. They were strong enough for that, at least. So, the story progresses. They realize Plan B doesn't work. Oh my gosh, I skipped a part. The first thing you do on that day is you were like, okay, what is your plan? So they hand you the plans. You say, hey, Plan A doesn't work. He has a +1. They go, oh, well, we'll still try Plan A because that's what we got.
Yep. That was the moment where I said, you handed me my own plans. No changes, no side notes, no nothing, no new information added. You just handed me the Google Doc I had handed you guys earlier.
Yep.
Right back to me. And knowing what I knew now as Jake, I went through them and just kind of said, I basically gave the same critiques you gave me. It's like, these are all kind of one note, and the +1, there's a +1, so A won't work. B's kind of off the radar for that one. And you're kind of like, just kind of giving a critique of each one. No changes, you just went ahead with it. It's alphabetized. It must be right.
So anyways, after Plan A fails, they find that a lot of the other plans don't work either. So they decide to just enjoy the party.
And they really did just decide to enjoy the party.
I will say Selby was trying to fix her mistakes. She was hanging out, trying to be a seductive person next to Jake Saldrin, but that only goes so far with a +1.
Here's the thing. She also got sidled up with the +1.
Right.
And you remember there was a miscommunication that this person I want
to hear yours. This is something I didn't understand with the miscommunication. I want to continue a bit more, but come back to that because I remember you got to some miscommunication. I thought it was hilarious in the moment. But before I do that, I just want to say that as everyone's going on their stories, Hoot is hiding in the closet, and I give Midas Saldrin, the character Zippy's playing, an opportunity of just saying, hey, these people are really bad at what they're doing. Look, man, how about you kill Hoots, you take care of the evidence that I'm getting rid of, I invite you back into the family, man. I could use my bro in this hard work, man. That sort of stuff.
Yeah,
I realized using the word man a lot, it doesn't make a lot of sense when we're talking about nobles, but Well,
here's the thing. Jake was super laid back.
Yeah, that's story stuff we don't need to talk about, but basically they were the princes of the West Coast, so we had them West Coast accents. But anyways, the thing is, I do want to hear your side of this. When I gave Midas Saldrin the opportunity to help them kill Hoots and get out of there, what was going through your head?
All right. So what was happening was I was going through Jake's perspective of weighing the risk. He's not stupid. He's smart enough to realize the risks of this. He either has these two, has the group of nincompoops trying to assassinate his brother, and he, it's a big risk, but the reward is he's the leader and he gets out of having to deal with this, the Ice Queen. Or he takes that deal and he probably still has to deal with the Ice Queen and he's not the leader and he's disposable still.
By the way, the Ice Queen is the name of the BBEG.
That's the one I gave her. Whatever she really was.
It was what I expected you guys to call her.
Yeah, so the Ice Queen's, still, prevalent in Jake's decision making because he still serves her. So his only way out that I could think of that would get him fully out of this problem was if he went ahead and stuck by the assassination. And the general idea was also, I did, like you said, not want to rock the boat and take over. So it was more important that I figured at this point, Jake can, it's more important that Jake dies and Midas can, claim total leadership than trying to, follow in Jake's deal and probably end up dead within the week after he accomplished something. I didn't know the exact thing. So I just kind of went with that assumption that it's okay, Thieves Guild, you stab each other in the back. Congratulations. I've already got a plan in motion that's going to get me the whole enchilada, and I'm not going to take, some half part that you're willing to give me.
I will say one thing I was proud of. As you came back to the room and you were debating whether or not you would do this. By the way, we stepped out so the other players did not know we had this conversation. you asked Hoots, like, are you sure this is going to work? Without hesitation, he's like, absolutely. Like, the fact that he was
I
so
role played him. Yeah, see, that's the thing. It's like I role played that, and poor Midas has a low wisdom. So when he insight checked that, it was sounded honest.
Yeah, I should note that this is after Midas had already brought in the 3 people and were asking, where is Hoots? I know he was in this room. And,
Oh yeah, no, and that's where using Midas's spell list, since he's a sorcerer and a rogue.
Yeah, he had the subtle spell. You subtle spelled message. That was really smart.
To ask, are you sure that this plan will succeed? Because Hoot was hiding in the closet while Midas was playing a board game with one of the mercenaries meant to kill Hoot.
All 3 of them were there when you did the message. He said absolutely. You told them they're somewhere around the castle. Go find him. And you and the wizard stayed to play a board game in case he came back.
Yep. And that's when I, after about what?
Yeah,
I think about the third hour.
Yeah, now that you're in that room, let's jump over to the other players real fast.
Oh boy.
So this is... You said that there was something with Selby. I do know he was with Midas. I don't... You said this is where some strange ideas for the +1 came in. I need to hear what these are.
So, when you first described this character, the +1, you mentioned that they were heavily make-upped a little too excessively. Like, they weren't used to it.
The intent was they're not used to it.
Well, that's the thing. What that clued in was, you also said the dress was ill-fitting. So it's like, okay, the best way you can think of this is like, okay, it's either a girl who got gussied up, which is very weird that a noble's +1 wouldn't know how to work with makeup. Flip side of that is, it's an ill-fitting dress for a formal occasion. So what could happen here? And it basically added up with a few other details about I think Selby went up and tried to chat up the +1 at one point while Jake was off talking with associates.
Mm-hmm.
And while at that moment, you dropped a hint that I don't think you meant to hint at. But somewhere along the line, the not the exact wording of this, but it was like along the lines of her saying to Selby that, I'm not in love. It was something along the lines of like, I don't swing that way for Jake.
Oh.
And that's when, in Selby's mind, it all clicked into being, this is a man disguised as a woman.
That's what it was. Okay. Yeah, I was just implying that this person... So the idea was that they're working with... it's like a business deal with Midas. They're not... Or with the Saldrin family. They're not actually dating. They're using Midas as a way to go to this party to do a job. And I was trying to have her advertise her company while you were there. But you guys didn't care about the company. You cared about the fact that... there's this person there that's kind of in their way, and is kind of getting annoyed that you keep hitting on her
+1, like her date.
Yeah.
So she was trying to get the guy, get Selby to step off for a minute. And in Selby's mind, it's a trap, is what he yelled. Like the actual, the player when he yelled that, he's like, it's a trap. And I looked at him and I'm like, I know what you're thinking, and no, don't do this.
When I heard it's a trap, I literally thought, yes, this entire theme, there's assassinations. Of course there's traps in here. What are you talking about?
You took it literally as, you're the DM. You're the one overlooking this entire thing. There are plenty of traps in this entire assassination plot of House of Cards. I looked at him going yes, this character is a trap, but not the way you think. And he immediately turns around and tries to expose... Selby turns around and tries to expose this woman for being a man.
I just remember there was some uncomfortable thing I had to get the character to leave. I don't remember exactly there. Anyway, so a lot of people are doing their secondary tangents. Vale found a gnome person that wanted to use him that paid to be his bodyguard. Og is having fun on the dance floor and actually meets...
Queen.
Yeah, so everyone's dancing and no one knows how to dance with the queen. And they're all waiting for someone to pick up the moves. Og just hears the music and starts going tribal dancing, and the queen thinks, "Oh, that looks fun."
He's old little lady. Yeah. It was just a little old lady with this, basically, I want to say like a 7-foot tall dude,
Yep.
like muscle bound man who's jumping around in furs.
Og's at least 7 feet tall. Yeah. But yeah, so they're having fun, and the bodyguards are really scared for this, but Og got trained how to not kill people.
I like how we have to specify his dancing wasn't meant to kill people. His strength bonus would massacre normal civilians.
He did
If he
say he was
stomped
being a
on
bit
them.
careful not to break her spine, so I gave him that.
Yeah, no, it's like being gentle with the old queen while still jumping around and,
Anyways,
it was hilarious.
so between this time, back to the story, some stuff, certain things are happening all at once at this point. So we know that Og's out of the picture. I think Guppy, Zippy, and Gus and Zippy's body is out of the picture for something. And I remember I have Selby. So Jake Saldrin left for a while, and when he comes back, he invites Selby to his room. I should note that Selby was like being another person of the Shadows, another bard, College of Whispers bard. I thought it was kind of implied, like, yeah. I think by then they've implied that they're somewhere in here. I'm like,
yeah, no, it was discovered that the murder bards were in this trying to crash the heist to accomplish as an initiation for their students. Assassinate your target during this heist, and don't get caught, and then you will graduate to being a full-fledged assassin. What was funny is we had this heist, we had murderers, like our band of assassins. Then we had the target we're trying to assassinate our like party member. On top of there's just an overall arching school of assassins also building a web and trying to catch as many nobles in it as possible.
Yeah.
We had so many houses of cards inside this house of cards that when the wind blew, the whole thing just went boom.
Yeah. But anyways, he just Selby. Sorry. The character's a she, the player's a he. That's why I keep mixing that up. So she decides, like, this is our chance. I'm gonna take it. So he heads off to with Jake, quote unquote, and heads up to his room. While this is happening, Midas, you decided to start acting about having the wizard in here and Hoot in the closet.
Yeah. Hoot needed to get out and actually gets, he was part of a plan for later on, and one of the plans was he needed to order his food for the dining hall, which meant he had to be at the dining hall. And that evening was coming to a close where everyone was going to sit down for dinner. So this wizard sitting guard with me needed to go. And the only way I could think of it is squishy wizard, I don't have to attack because he can fall to his death.
They are on the 5th story, I believe.
Yep. So like squishy wizard, you can fall and bite the bullet. Midas doesn't have, he has intelligence, but he doesn't quite have the wisdom to rethink any of this plan. So what came down to it was subtle cast mold earth on the stone windowsill, and then minor illusion it to be a normal windowsill. So that when he leaned on the wizard would try to catch himself on the windowsill that wasn't there and fall out the window, and that would just be the wizard would fall. And then with the wizard gone, get Hoot out, get him busy. I just stay here and say the wizard went out, went out to get some fresh air or something. Whenever the guards came or the other guys hunting for Hoot came back, whole plan went out the window when the wizard managed to make his athletics check to catch himself from falling out that window. That was a kink in my plan I didn't think about.
That being said, Hoots saw that plan was going and did help. I think the reason he fell is because Hoot then jumped out and like stabbed him and threw him out or something like that.
I thought it was because I misty stepped him and I out, but I don't know about that because it's a wisdom save if you're an unwilling participant.
So I remember this. I remember he was falling. For some reason, Hoot came out, shot him. He was falling. You were falling with him. I don't remember what the reason was. I think you might have grappled and thrown him out or something like that.
Yeah. The wizard managed to grab me and take me with him. So at that point, as he's falling, I think he was featherfall. He featherfelled himself
No, I
so that
think
he wouldn't die when he hit the ground. So
something
I
like
had to make. So what it came down to was very hastily. Like I couldn't dimension door unless he wanted to, but I could misty step and thunder
no,
step
no.
while dragging him closer and closer to
I,
the pit to see if I could throw him in it.
I remember this. You specifically told him like, "Hey, grab my hand. I'll bring you back up to him." So he grabs his hand, and dimension door just 4 feet higher, so that like after they land on the ground, so that they fall again.
You're right. It was one of those. It was hilarious. Of you're totally willing, right, to have me help. Take. Yeah, that's the way I tricked him. Was you're willing to come with me?
And it's the spell dimension door. He's teleporting there. No, we're not teleporting there. Like
we teleported right back, over to the pit.
Yep.
And at the end of it all, the whole struggle, the rogue and the wizard, I managed to stab him enough times that he's dead on the edge of the pit and just kick him in. And all these little slave kids, just watch as I just kick this corpse into the mine. I just turn to them and go like, "You didn't see anything."
I will note,
like wipe some blood off and then walk away.
I will note at this point there is one thing that like went wrong with this. During the time, the wizard cast the sending spell during the fight.
Yep, he did use his action to send sending instead of fight me off. And the other thing was I used several thunder steps, so it was a loud boom that could be heard in the dining hall, like something was under attack or there was something wrong.
There was definitely noise coming from outside.
They knew something was up.
So, this is an example of like where Zippy was breaking the rules. He wasn't supposed to act without the others, but like I understand entirely. Like you were just sitting there with who nothing was happening.
There had to be some initiative in the fact is it was going to be me and Hoot stuck in this one room unless I did something.
Yep.
And Hoot wasn't coming up with an idea.
And I remember you killed him. I think Hoot then went back in the closets.
Yep.
Wow.
He went right back in. He didn't go down to the dinner hall because I didn't communicate that he needed to run down to the dinner hall for dinner. I just assumed that he would leave the room because he was trapped in there. No, he resumed hiding in the closet for when the guards came back.
So, yeah.
Looking for him.
So, I should explain. So, I will say he was smart to join you, but then he decided that his bot was in that closet. The sending spell was to that huntsman person, telling the Gloomstalker Ranger for build, if anyone's curious, telling him that our target's in there, Midas betrayed us, that sort of stuff. So, anyways, for time frame, so Zippy runs back out, and I remember I have the owner of the house.
I'd used a lot of spell slots at that point to do that in that one fight. I just threw every spell slot that Midas had into that fight.
I think you had a few low-level ones, though.
I had like two first levels left. Because I turned everything else into sorcery points to use as spell slots for the the Misty Steps and Thunder Steps and all these other spells to try to transport this guy's this unwilling participant in his murder to a hole to throw him in it.
Yep. Anyways, so I remember you get back to the castle. You come at the front doors and basically tell the owner,
"Hey, there's an assassination plot coming on."
Also, this. I just remember you're telling me all these things. I'm like, also, this person has a penis. I'm just like,
yeah, no, just straight up.
This is where I get introduced to the fact that they think this is a trap as a character. Just like, all right, there's an assassination prop. This thing's getting murdered. This person's getting destroyed. There's a heist going on. Also, this person has a penis.
Just like, this woman has a penis, and just like that gets thrown in the middle of the explanation that there's a murder plot happening for some of the guests. Yeah. And I basically just front loaded the entire thing. But the biggest thing that I made him focus on was the fact that this one woman, like the whole thing, it's like, I don't believe you. He says, I can prove it. And you're like, how? This woman has a penis. So the whole credibility of all the things I said, that some of them were true, that there was an emergent plot going on, and some of them weren't true about who was the target. All of it would come true if they stripped this random +1 of Jake's +1, stripped her with and verified that she was indeed male.
Fun fact: she was just a woman who
she
wasn't
was just a
used to
woman,
going into these fancy areas and didn't
and
know
then she
what to
got
dress.
stripped.
That stripping
Yep.
didn't happen yet. What happened is at this point you hooked back up with Faint Veil, and you guys were coming up to check out your rooms as Selby was drinking wine with the two murderers, the person who disguised himself as Jake Saldrin and their guard. At the same time, the huntsman had gone to the other room. You molded earth to open the windowsill, so he just used the rope and climbed in there. And
Yep.
so I basically was like, all right, I said we're not going to do rolls, and if we didn't do rolls, those two people would be dead. But I decided, you know what? Let's do some rolls. It's not like they have much of a chance.
Yeah, it's combat now.
Yeah.
It's not like the role plays like we were having. Where
The
you
combat
have, like,
starts.
10 minutes.
Selby's in one room with two assassins in front of her, just in the other corner. Hoot's stuck in a closet, cornered by a Gloomstalker Ranger, and everyone else is outside with arcane locks on the locks. I'm just like, oh, this is gonna be fine. Faint Veil, the entire party basically goes before any one of the enemies. Faint Veil goes to the door. He's like, all right, can I pick the lock? I'm like, well, it's gonna take you a few tries because it's really high. I rolled a nat 20.
Yep.
All right, I guess you're in this fight. All right, Hoot, and it's like, all right, well, it's the Ranger's turn. Roll nat 1 on the first attack, 3 on the second attack.
Yep.
He gets a third attack, 4 on the third attack.
Yeah,
all right.
You could not roll any higher than a 5 on all the assailants.
Throughout that combat, I believe I got 4 or 5 natural 1s, and they got 3 natural 20s.
Yep. It really was just the most incompetent assassins in the world. I mean, to be fair, they were students, but just the imagery of the Gloomstalker Ranger who's, practiced his skill and craft to murder, this one, people.
Can't kill a guy cowering in a closet.
Yep, no, that Kenku Rogue was hiding in a closet with, reduced HP even. He was still recovering from that one time where we knocked him down to negative, down to 2 hit points. So he's still recovering his hit points because he couldn't make a con save to beat his levels of exhaustion.
Yeah.
And now this ranger is stabbing wildly into the closet, can't hit this bird, and then Selby's just kind of, basically slaps these two students around. I guess, the student versus the master.
Or you just Misty steps to the door, can walk out, Yeah,
it's just you just kind of sit there. I just sat back for a minute and going I wasn't supposed to act, and I already broke the rules on this, so I'm just gonna do this is a fight to make sure this party survives. So at this point, when this is done, I'm totally drawing back and going okay, I put some events into motion. Now they can be reactionary. This is their play style is very reactionary. So I figured, all right, I'm pulling back. I broke the rules. This is, time to tone it down.
That's why you waited at the entrance. Okay.
You know what? At this point, I just can't be. I couldn't rightfully keep saying, "Oh, I'm doing this for the good of the party." To just keep acting and behaving because that's what you wanted me not to do, and I broke that after 3 hours.
No, I understand why you broke it. Again, I understand why you broke it.
And then I dialed back to make sure I didn't keep breaking it because then it would be totally. It would render the whole exercise point. And that's why it's it was one of those things that I could have had Midas go straight up to his brother and then shank him, and it would have ended the whole mission. But that's not the point of hiring a bunch of goons to murder.
Yep. Also, it would mean Midas has no chance of being the leader since he was seen murdering the previous leader.
Yep. So that's all right. I can't do this mission for you guys. I can only assist you in getting Hoot out of the closet that he so adamantly tries to stay in.
So they do manage to take out the assassins thanks to those rolls. God, I can't
you have the worst luck.
Yeah.
I have never once seen a single other person roll that many nat ones in one go.
We got a TPK in our party due to a similar event, but that happened a few months ago. So, but yes, I have a habit of I still believe in absolute variance, and I trust these dice. I have my doubts, though. I won't deny I have my doubts.
See, that's the thing. It's like you only have doubts. The rest of the room is just going like, "You're cursed, Ben. You're cursed. You
Anyways.
can only roll high in dreams."
Oh yeah, the dream fights! I roll high in those! I forgot about
You rolled
those.
3 nat 20s and knocked our asses out
The one time
in
I
that
said,
fight.
alright, we're having a dream fight, mostly because you guys need a ram encounter, I don't see a way of the story. Like, this is like 3 months later in the campaign.
Can't roll high, and then he rolls nat 20s, and he
Yeah,
doesn't roll
we
a
get
single
to the
nat
dream
1.
fight, and suddenly then I'm rolling at 20s.
Suddenly, he just destroys us, and it's like, we
I
were
need to
level
power
11,
things
and you
down! What am I doing? How have they handled these other fights?
yeah, I just sit there going like, we were level 11, and you just kicked our asses with sharks.
Oh. Anyways. So after murdering the League of Incompetent Assassins, the party, it's about time for dinner. I'm like, okay,
Yep.
Hooch can set out that plan. The others have a reason to sit with the actual Jake Saldrin. This, you're going to wait. You said your character is going way outside in case anyone tries to escape through the entrances.
That was the point. It's like I could use
Yep.
the snow crown and just basically that was the idea. I don't have to participate in this roleplay event. I don't have to do anything. I'm just going to stand guard.
And one last brilliant theme, because you diverted it to Jake's +1. The +1 was asked to step away from the table during the eating.
Yep, because they asked the maids to disrobe her.
Yes.
It was just gonna be a quiet, subtle thing to prove that Jake is that Jake is indeed part of an assassin league, and that it's important to the the safety of the party members that he be detained. Totally reasonable, as long as his +1 is a man. If he was actually a man.
Oh my gosh. Anyways, as now comes the dinner. So Hoot does send in his order. The dinner, I believe Hoot and Faint Veil are sitting at one table. Og is sitting with the Queen. Jake,
Yep, she
Selby,
basically picked herself up as sugar mama,
Yep.
which was the funniest thing in that entire night.
Yeah, that was. So then the other four, it was Jake, Guppy, their targets, and the target's guard. I'm echoing over into your side, Zippy.
Huh, weird.
I'm hearing something on your side. I think it's me. Anyways, yeah, that's definitely
Yep, it is.
me.
Let me tone down the volume a bit. Talk.
Testing. A little bit. Anyways, I'll try to keep it from... Can you just mute yourself when you're not talking for a little bit? Sorry about that. I don't know why it just suddenly started happening.
That's weird. It wasn't having an issue earlier.
No, and we've been recording for an hour, so... Which means let's finish this off with the dining room. So, the two rogues at one table. The bard and the once bard, now sorcerer at another table. The barbarian sitting at a table in between the two, basically. And the target with the two bards. They're just having polite conversation for a while. They're just waiting for their moment. And, finally, their moment comes. Screaming is heard from the kitchen. The panic causes everyone to turn that direction. And I'm like, alright. Time for the two rogues to do their jobs. So I point to Faint Veil. What do you want to do? You have 2 rounds, which nobody is looking at you. What do you want to do? He considers for a while and is like, can I sneak under a table nearby the Saldrins? I'm like, can I sneak under a table? I'm like, yes, the Saldrin's table is just a few steps. He goes, whoa, not under his table, under a table nearby. And I'm like, well, the only other table nearby is the Queen's table, which has, a bunch of guards. He's like, oh. Well, then I guess I'll just go say hi to my buddy Og. So he walks up towards Og. The guards suddenly alert to someone approaching, shoo him away, and so he shoos away. That's what he does with his 2 turns. So we look to the other rogue, Hoots. The man who started this plan. The man who had the brilliant idea of using something from another campaign to act as a distraction for this one. The man who was absolutely certain with his ability to kill the targets. The man who, I will admit, I gained quite a lot of respect throughout this day for him. And I looked at Hoots. I said, "What do you want to do with your 2 rounds?" He looks me in the eye. Absolute certainty in his voice. Just calm, knows what he wants to say. He looks at me.
Can I be distracted by it?
He looks at me and says, "Am I not allowed to look at the distraction as well?"
Can I be distracted by my own distraction?
I say,
we had a debate.
If I say, "There's nothing stopping you," he's like, "Okay." And then he looks off in the distance as if role-played his character looking at the distraction. And I look over to Zippy.
Stare at each other.
To see him but eating his fingers because he can't scream otherwise.
No, I'm like full on biting my hand to the point where I actually started drawing blood because I'm just like, I got up and had to take a walk. Like it was like self-mutilation or just take a walk outside. It's like 90 degrees outside. It's summer. This dorm room's hot. And I still want to go be outside more than just taking the heat of my face going so red from having to hold in screaming. And then, okay, we're like one last person. The Murder Bard. Shadow Bard.
I don't think I gave them an option, though. I do know they did not act. I'm not sure if I gave them the opportunity, though.
You did. They were sitting right there where the +1 used to be. He sidled right on up. And then they cowered for 2 turns. They had the poison. They were ready to do it. And yet they didn't want to roll. They didn't want to take the chance. So they let the distraction, and they just basically passed on both those turns. So that when the distraction was over, dinner ended, and everyone was let go. Except here's the thing.
So, as for the dinner, there is
accusations.
Yes. So then comes how it ends. So after that, I'm just like, all right. As I said, this is a League of Assassins hunting their targets. So, this poison that knocks people unconscious, they got from this League of Assassins. When they failed to poison it, well, I already had the idea long ago that one of the assassins was in the kitchen poisoning one of their meals. So while they're all getting their meals, the meal continues on. Faintvale drops unconscious. And everyone's laughing that it's drunk. I don't know what Selby's plan was, but she stands up, says, and like metagame says, "Everyone trust me, alright?" And begins to tell everyone, "There's murderers here. There's assassins trying to kill us. We need to get out of here."
What she did was she decided that the only way to get out of this situation was to cause a panic in all of the nobility of the Forgotten Realms. And so they did.
It's not all the nobility of the Forgotten Realms, but nobility of them.
It's just... That was an entire room of noble men and women, all ready to, having a nice meal, and then all of a sudden, people start falling unconscious at random points because they're eating food.
Only
That's
Faintvale.
the moments.
Only Faintvale, because it was going to be, "Oh, look, he's drunk. Let someone take him to his room." But no, he decides he's going to reveal to absolutely everyone that there's assassins here, and we need to escape. So the guards start planning everyone to form a single file line to start heading towards the teleportation circles. And as I say that, Selby just looks at the group and says, "I screwed up, guys. I'm sorry."
I don't even know what he was planning at that point. I just sat and looked at them both going like, "You think?" Like, no shit, Sherlock. You really did.
So, I will say this. Who managed to not die? Faintvale managed to not die. Selby managed to not die. Roleplay stuff? They did some good stuff. When everyone was evacuating, Hoot managed to get the children through the teleportation circle to his hometown, where there's a big old orphanage that they adopt kids for. Selby learned at least some whereabouts about her father and her mother, which was a big part of her backstory.
Wasn't the idea that the mother was nearby? Was the kind of idea was like she's somewhere up north with you?
I specifically said that the mother cannot be divined. She's not dead, but she's preventing detection, which is interesting. Anyways.
Oh yeah, I mean on the bright side, I got a sugar mama, and then Hoot was managed to get all the kids to safety.
Yep.
Supposedly.
Yep.
Which, my exploits in the afterlife proved otherwise to some of them.
So, to be clear, they failed to get their magic item they were looking for. Zippy's exploits in the afterlife were actually involved in that magic item. That's how I managed to take care of 2 birds with 1 stone, because, let's be honest, they were having issues. Anyways, they did not kill their targets. Midas Saldrin stayed a threat that they had to deal with. Jake Saldrin became a threat they had to deal with.
And with a vengeance. Both of them were now after us for personal vengeance.
Yep. So
see, it was hilarious because the queen, the ice queen, was just mad at Zippy because Zippy's fire boy, she's flame girl, ice girl, and they just don't like each other. It was okay. Zippy insulted her army and everything that she stood for. That was fine. That's an ideological difference. That's fine. Turns around. Oh look, there's a shadow of murder bards. A college of murder bards. That's a little questionable. So we basically declare war on them too because murder's bad. We're the heroes. And then we turn around, and then we piss off a thieves guild, and then we also piss off the brother, who's part of the thieves guild and part of the Ice Queen's army. Personal attacks.
Listen, I'm alright with you pissing all those people off. You piss off the guards of Bryn Shander, and you murdered the guards of Targos.
The entire militia of the entire 10-town army is now mad at us. So we have a vortex of political opinions all coming after us because, wouldn't you know it, burning down 2 separate towns because of cursed items is a bad idea.
Anyways, all I was trying to get at, the ball ends. Their goal when I brought them here was kill Jake Saldrin, get the rogue's magic item. They failed to kill Jake Saldrin. They never find the magic item. They did manage to not die, other than Zippy.
Managed to fail the task successfully. So no Groundhog Daying.
Oh my gosh. But, yeah, that's the story of the Ballroom Assassination.
A mess of an event that was.
The beautiful comedy of errors. All self-imposed. All self-imposed.
It's still the funniest thing in the world to just say, it's a trap, whenever that was the funniest, I think.
All right. I think, any last closing remarks other than that?
It's fun to play with them, and I don't hold it against them. It was just...
Yes, I enjoy them, and they had some good, smart maneuvers later. But that was the most memorable, and fortunately it does not put them in a good light.
So, okay, there's rarely a D&D story where someone is going to, where it's like hilarious, where someone's like, the party was the good guys on something. It's always a hilarious, like, misadventure. And it probably would have been just as messy had I actually had, like, Zippy still in there. It just, the difference of events would have just been, I was taking much more initiative on trying to arrange and plan how these guys maneuvered through the building.
I think you also would have searched for that secret room.
I wanted the item in it. I don't know what was in it. I just wanted whatever is in it. And if anything, it was a perfect place to stash bodies.
All right. Well, with that, I hope you all enjoyed this.